So finally, here's my spoiler review of No Time to Die. No Time to Die spoiler review. Now, No Time to Die is directed by Cary Fukunaga and is Daniel Craig's fifth and final James Bond film. And basically, the film follows James Bond, what's going to play by Daniel Craig in this film, as he goes on this mission after receiving the details from Felix, which leads him to Cuba, where the Spectre party is taking place, where this party is taking place with all the people who work for Spectre being there. And basically, long story short, at this party, all the people who work for Spectre end up dying at the hands of a drug known as the Hercules. So basically, this leads Bond to think that Christoph Waltz's Blofeld, who previously met in Spectre, was behind the killings of the people who work for him. So basically, Bond goes back to MI6. He goes back to the 00 service in London to go and confront Blofeld. But then, basically, long story short, it's revealed that Blofeld is not behind the killings of his own people, and instead, someone else is behind it. And that other person that's behind it is the new big bad Bond villain in the film, known as Safin, played by Rami Malek in the film. He basically is using this drug known as the Hercules to kill innocent people. However, the drug was initially created by Ray Fiennes' M to kill villainous people, but basically in the wrong hands, in the hands of the people who work for Safin, is now killing innocent people, or maybe not innocent people, but people who shouldn't be being killed, who not planned to be killed by Ray Fiennes' M. So basically, Bond sets out to go and stop Safin before it's too late, and Safin kills thousands of people at the hands of this drug. But along the way, a lot of complications start to occur. For example, Madeline Swan, Liz Bond girl, returns to Spectre, and basically she's got a bit of a past with Safin, the big bad Bond villain. And at the same time, though, you also meet the new 007 in the film, played by Shanna Lynch, who also helps Bond along his mission as he tries to defeat Rami Malek's big bad Bond villain known as Safin in the film. And that's basically the plot of No Time to Die. But honestly, I must admit, I explained the plot quite awfully there, because in the end, the plot of this James Bond film, the plot of pretty much every single James Bond film, is in the end, James Bond has to go and defeat the big bad Bond villain, and along the way, he faces quite a few obstacles. He has to kill some of the big bad guy's men. But then, as the big bad guy is about to win, and he's about to put his big, final evil plan into action, Bond just manages to defeat him. And that's basically, in a nutshell, the plot of No Time to Die, and in a nutshell, it's a plot of every single previous Bond film I reviewed beforehand. But that's not to say it's bad, because actually, I've seen No Time to Die twice now, and I actually think it's a really good Bond film. I mean, I think it's got some big problems in there, but overall, I like it quite a lot. I liked it a lot more than I thought I was going to, and I liked it a lot more the second time than I did the first time. Because the first time, I was quite down on this film. I was saying something like, oh, I wish I loved it, I wish it was better, but in the end, even so I still don't love it, I like it quite a lot. And you know what? That's what I'm going to take from this film overall. I like No Time to Die quite a lot. Even so, I do still think it's got some huge big problems in there. But the thing is though, one of the reasons I like this film so much, or more like the main reason I like this film so much, is in the end, and okay, big spoilers here, in case you haven't read the title for this review, big spoilers for No Time to Die in this review right now. So basically, the thing I like so much about this film was, in the end, it wasn't a film about Bond. It wasn't a film about Bond saving the day. In the end, it was a film about family, it was a film about loss, and it was a film about coming together. Or maybe not necessarily come together, but you get the idea what I'm trying to get at. It's a film about family, which is one of the reasons I just really liked No Time to Die. Honestly, I just love the fact that in the end, it was a film about family, and in the end, it wasn't a film about Bond saving the day. I mean, at the same time though, that was also kind of problematic in my opinion, but at the same time though, you also get this, feeling that this film is about family, and it's about Bond letting go and things like that, and I really like that about this film. I mean, first of all, let's talk about the big thing that happens in the film. The big spoiler, which No Time to Die is going to be known as. Honestly, No Time to Die is going to be known as the Bond film where Bond dies. That's a big spoiler. Bond dies at the end of this film. Well, maybe not the end of this film, but close to the end of this film. And honestly, I must admit, I like that, but I don't love it, because I've got some problems with his death. Like, I like how the death's done. I think it's actually a really good death scene. Like, the way Daniel Craig plays in his last few moments as Bond is so good. Honestly, Daniel Craig's performance in his last few moments in this film is incredible. Honestly, it reminded me, of a moment where Jyn Erso and, Cassian Andor die in Rogue One. It's such an emotional moment. I think that moment, when I was watching the cinema, particularly the second time, because the first time I actually watched that moment in the cinema, I spoke about it a bit in my non-spoiler review. There was this big emotional scene in the third act of the film, and someone, the first time I watched the film, was on their phone, 4 rows down in the cinema. I was like, turn off your phone, this is a big emotional scene, and you're on your phone. But then, the second time, no one was on their phone in the cinema, Thankfully, I hate when people on the phone in the cinema, and honestly, I immersed myself into that scene so much more, and I just absolutely adored the way it was constructed. However, I've got to admit, I've got some problems with that whole idea, because in the end, Bond is meant to be that sense of escapism, you know, and you're meant to escape into the character of Bond every single time you watch a James Bond film, you know, you're meant to go along with him on his adventures, he kills all the bad guys, hooks up with the women, and then saves the day in the end, and then hooks up with a woman again. That's what you're meant to feel when you watch a James Bond film, you're meant to go along with that character, and in the end, when he saves the day, you're meant to go, yes, I've saved the day as well, along with the character when you're watching the Bond film. But the thing is though, hey, yes, Bond saves the day, kills Safin, but at the same time though, he doesn't completely win. He dies. You know, your sense of escapism with the Bond character dies as Bond dies in this film. And I'm not sure if that's totally a good idea. And the thing is though, like, there seems to be this obsession with killing big characters in big Hollywood blockbusters nowadays. And maybe it's not an obsession, but it seems to be happening quite a lot. Like, honestly, you had, you know, Han Solo die in Star Wars Force Awakens, you had Luke Skywalker die in Star Wars Last Jedi, then Princess Leia die in Star Wars Rise of Skywalker. And I know the whole Princess Leia thing wasn't necessarily the same thing, but the character still died in that film. And at the same time, they had Iron Man die in Avengers Endgame, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Indiana Jones dies in Indiana Jones 5 now. I don't want him to, but I won't be surprised if that's the way it goes. Because, honestly, it just seems like a thing which Hollywood does a lot nowadays. And there's plenty more examples as well, which I just haven't mentioned. But I don't know, is that necessarily a good thing? Because you're meant to escape into these characters. You know, in the Avengers films, you're meant to escape in there with Iron Man. And in the Star Wars films, you're meant to escape in there with all these big, iconic characters like Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, and Princess Leia. But then, in the end, when you kill off those characters, is that necessarily a good thing? But the thing is, though, in Star Wars, it's not necessarily the same, because he's still going to be the characters back. You know, even though Han Solo dies in The Force Awakens, he comes back in The Rise of Skywalker. Same with Luke Skywalker, and saying, you know, so on and so on and so on. There's Force ghosts in Star Wars, so those characters can come back in a certain sort of capacity. And also, Marvel-wise, I think Iron Man will come back, because in the end, it's a Marvel fake death universe. No one's really dead there, because, you know, Black Widow, I could dare say Black Widow will definitely be coming back. You know, it's already confirmed that Chris Evans is returning as Captain America, so he's not really dead either. But the thing is, though, Bond can't come back. We don't have Force ghosts in the James Bond franchise. Imagine if we did, by the way. It's so weird, like having Roger Moore pop up in one of the later James Bond films. That'd just be so weird. And actually kind of cool. But yeah, we don't have Force ghosts in the Bond franchise, though, so he can't come back. And I don't know, is that a problem that this character wants to escape into dies? You know, Daniel Craig's Bond dies in his final outing as an iconic character. And, you know, is that necessarily the way this character should have ended? I mean, honestly, I thought they might go the Dark Knight Rises route. Like, if you remember, on my live streams in the past couple of weeks, I actually predicted that they might kill Bond. But I also thought they might go the Dark Knight Rises route. Like, spoilers the Dark Knight Rises here, because you haven't seen it. But Dark Knight Rises was like, yo, when did the Dark Knight Rises come out? 2012? You had ages to see it. You had almost 10 years to see the Dark Knight Rises. But okay, spoilers here, in case you haven't seen the Dark Knight Rises. Basically, at the end of the Dark Knight Rises, you think Batman's died. But then, actually, it's revealed that he's not. Actually, he's gone to live on as Bruce Wayne with Catwoman and everything, and actually just giving up the Batman persona. And I did think that Bond might do a similar route, and in the end, you know, you think Bond's gonna die, and then at the very end, he'll be revealed, you know, actually he's living happily with Madeline Swan in some, like, cottage in the middle of nowhere. But then in the end, they didn't go that route. In the end, Bond actually dies. There's no sort of reveal at the end. There's no, like, post-credits scene where Bond, you know, hops back into the shot, things like that. No, Bond's died. And you know, there's going to be so many people which now think that the Bond franchise is done for good. And actually, I was watching this with two of my mates, and they both turned to me in the film and go, okay, is that the end of the Bond franchise now? And obviously it's not, because, you know, Bond is like this big event film. People go and see it. It's like Star Wars, it's like Avengers, it's like, you know, Marvel movies in general. It's a big event film. People go and see Bond now. It's a big event film. So clearly Bond is not gone, even though the character has died in this film. He's not gone. But the thing is, though, a lot of people, a lot of just general audiences, and I can understand why, by the way, you might just think that, okay, that's the end of Bond now, but it's not. That would be probably like Richard Madden or Henry Cavill further down the line. But the thing is, though, I do understand that that sense of, okay, is that the end of the Bond franchise? So we kill Bond off, what's next? But in the end, they'll just reboot the whole franchise. But it raised that sort of question, like, are people going to be really confused by that? And are people really going to like that? Personally, I like the whole idea, and I like how it was done. Or do I like the whole idea? Actually, no. I'm not the biggest on the whole idea. I don't hate the whole idea of killing Bond, but at the same time, no, I'm not the biggest on it. But the thing is, though, I like how it was done, but was it the best idea? Like, would it have been better if they went with the ending of The Dark Knight Rises? I know in the end, you know, the film would have come up with some criticism if it did go with that ending, you know, the similar sort of ending of The Dark Knight Rises, but the thing is, though, it could have also made its own. And I don't know, I think it actually would have been better if, like, in the post-credit scene, maybe not in the post-credit scene, but, like, in the final shot of the film, you just saw Bond somewhere actually living happily. But obviously, you're not going to, because of how the events unfold, you know, leading towards his death. The thing is, though, I don't know. Was it the best idea? Because Bond, in the end, is meant to be this escape character. You're meant to escape into that character, and you're meant to go along with him as he saves the day and succeeds in the end. But he doesn't get away in the end of this one. He doesn't get away in the end. And, you know, is your sense of escapism left with the film as he doesn't get away? I don't know. It's an interesting idea, and I think it was done actually quite well in the film. Like, I love the whole moment where he realises that he's going to die either way. You know, he can either stay on the island and die when the missiles get there, or he can live on, but, you know, he can't touch his daughter, or he can't touch Madeline as well, the woman he loves. I love the whole idea that either way, it's a big, big loss for him. So he decides to stay on the island in the end because he can't live without being with Madeline. And actually, I'm going to bring up a bit more on that idea a bit later in the review. The whole thing we know. Was a Bond relationship between him and Madeline that significant in this film, and how that plays out, anything like that. I know we'll talk about it a bit later in this review as well. But the thing is, though, you know, I like the way it was done, but was it the best idea? Was it the best idea? And I'm going to be very interested to see what Bond fans think of that, because in the end, and general audience as well, because in the end, I think a lot of general audiences, and a lot of just people who watch this film, will now know it as the film which Bond dies. You know, they might, you know, just scurve over the whole thing through the daughter, which is actually quite an important aspect of the film, in my opinion, and might just talk about the fact that it's the ending. It's the big end. Bond dies in this one. That hasn't happened yet in the Bond franchise. I have watched all the 20-odd films leading up to this one, so I do know it hasn't happened in the Bond franchise yet. So is this how we're going to remember No Time to Die? The film where Bond dies. And is that necessarily a good thing? I don't know. I like the way it was done, but was the idea the best? And honestly, I might change my opinion on that time and time again. And it's going to be very interesting to see what reactions are. Because bear in mind, this film hasn't actually come out in America yet. I don't know how they're going to see the whole death scene in this film. So it's going to be very interesting in my opinion, because you can't really bring Daniel Craig's Bond back now. Because, you know, if you go back and revisit previous Daniel Craig Bond films like Casino Royale, Quantum of Solace, Skyfall and Spectre, you'll know in your head where the storyline is going. Is that necessarily the best idea? I don't know. But I liked how it was done, and I thought it was a bold and brave move, and an interesting way to go with this film. And actually, there's one other thing I want to mention with the whole death thing. It was kind of foreshadowed a bit. Like, if you know on a Majesty Secret Service, the Bond film, which this Bond film, you know, references a lot. Honestly, there's so many references on Majesty Secret Service in the film. Like, literally, the handsomest score quotes the score to On Majesty Secret Service in the opening moments of the film. And there's so many other references, like Bond actually saying, with all the time in the world, to Madeline, which is what Bond actually says to his wife, you know, Diana Riggs character in On Majesty Secret Service after they get married. Then, actually, spoiler alert here if you haven't seen On Majesty Secret Service, but, you know, that film came out in 1969. You had age to see that film, but you know, nevertheless, spoiler alert for On My Secret Service in case you haven't seen it. Basically, Bond gets married in that film, and then his wife ends up dying. And the thing is, though, it is kind of that similar sort of idea, but this time it's your way around. You know, instead of Bond's wife dying, instead of Madeline Swan dying, you get, this time around, you get Bond dying. And actually, when I watched it the second time, because I'm a huge fan of On My Secret Service, because it's still my favourite Bond film today, honestly, I love that film. But when I was watching it a second time, I was realising, oh my god, the foreshadowing a bit. Like, if you're a Bond fan, I think second time around, you'll understand that maybe there's a bit of foreshadowing going on there. You know, when they say to each other, we have all the time in the world, and you know, Bond's final line to Madeline Swan, like, you have all the time in the world. It's literally playing back to On My Secret Service, and then it's the film, it's kind of foreshadowing that a big cat's going to die in this film. And, you know, it's your way around than On My Secret Service. Like I said before, in On My Secret Service, you have Bond's wife dying. Here, you have Bond dying. It's a different sort of way around. And by the way, you can clearly tell that Cary Fukunaga, you know, the director of the film, you can clearly tell that his favourite Bond film is On My Secret Service. And I agree with him there. Good on you, Cary Fukunaga. Not that he's watching this review, but still, good on you. Yeah, I can clearly tell that Cary Fukunaga's favourite Bond film is On My Secret Service, because there's so many references in this film. But yeah, there's a bit of foreshadowing going in there, especially if you're a fan of On My Secret Service, you'll understand that foreshadowing, and I got it a lot more the second time around, actually. And also, like I said before, there's a lot of references to On My Secret Service. Good references in my opinion, like good references in the score and things like that, and you know, references with the dialogue, with All the Time in the World and things like that. But then actually, there's one scene in particular where just Daniel Craig's Bond and Ray finds his M are having this conversation in London, and then in the background, in the score, I know we're talking about the score in a bit more detail a bit later in the video, but in the score, you just hear, you know, the main themes on My Secret Service, you know, da 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 da. You just hear that playing in the background of a conversation between Daniel Craig's Bond and Ray finds his M, and I was just like, oh right, that's good that they put the theme in there. but why there? Because honestly, it kind of took me out of that conversation both times I watched, because I love that theme in On a Magic Service. I love John Barry's score for that film, I really do. And the thing is though, I was watching that scene in this film, just a scene between Daniel Craig's Bond where he finds his end, I'm just like, okay, you're playing the main theme from On a Magic Service, great piece of music, I'm a huge fan of it, but why here? It's taking me out of the conversation. I don't care what, Ray finds them or Daniel Craig's Bond are saying in the scene, because actually I'm more just listening to the music. I'm like, okay, maybe not the place to put it in there, but I'm happy that they put it in there. And like I said before, the Hans Zimmer score, a quote, moments from the On a Magic Service score in the opening moments of the film. You have the melodic line from, We Have All the Time in the World by Craig Armstrong played on the film. And actually, the very end of the film, you have All the Time in the World by Craig Armstrong played in the credits of the film. And actually, I don't know if I was the biggest fan of that. I think the song's great. I love the song We Have All the Time in the World. I think it's such a beautiful Bond song. But the thing is, though, I would have preferred to have different credits in the end. I would prefer to have maybe the James Bond theme in the credits, or actually have a different song, a song that was actually maybe some in the credits, because in the end, it did feel a bit like they were just kind of reusing a previous Bond song in the credits the second time around. The first time around, I really liked the fact that you have All the Time in the World in the credits, but the second time around, it was a bit like, was that necessarily the best decision? Because they should have just used their own song in the credits there, or had, the James Bond theme in a much more, down way in the credits, a much more pessimistic Bond theme, and I think that would have been a bit better. But anyway, let's talk about another big sporty review. So, I've talked my opinion on Bond dying. I like the way it was done. Not the biggest fan of the whole, idea, though. I don't hate the whole idea of killing off Bond, but at the same time, though, was it the best idea? But anyway, I've talked about the whole Bond death bit in this film. I've talked about the whole fact that Bond dies. So let's talk about another big spoiler in this review. Let's talk about the fact that Bond actually has a daughter. I really like the whole idea. However, I had a big problem to the execution of it. It's kind of the opposite of my opinion on the whole Bond death stuff. I love the fact that this film becomes, more about Bond life again. It feels like, this film feels like Bond after he's been Bond. Honestly, it feels like Bond after he's been in retirement, now he's coming back now. He's getting that little moment in the film, when he sees Moneypenny again, and Moneypenny's like, oh, how's retirement to Bond, and things like that. I really like the whole idea, and it's reinforced with this whole idea of Bond having a daughter. I really like the whole idea. However, I didn't like the way it was executed. I didn't like the fact Bond sees a young girl who thinks is his daughter, and leads to lose, Madeline Swan. It's like, oh no wait, that isn't your daughter. She's not yours. She's not yours. I'm just like, why is she lying there? There's no reason for her to lie. He's trying to protect Bond from the fact that he has a daughter. But why? I didn't really get that. I've seen the film twice now, and both times, I just haven't understand why she lies initially. If she just told him, actually, I think it would have had much more emotional impactfulness to the end of the film, but it doesn't. And I just don't know. You do get a little moment where Bond's about to die, and, Madeline Swan actually says to Bond, oh, yeah, by the way, she does have your eyes. And it's like, oh, so she was his daughter, but why didn't you say that initially? I think it would have added more emotion to his death in the film. I don't know. But I do really like the whole idea of Bond having a daughter. I think that's a really good idea, because again, it's reminding me of On a Magic Secret Service, and in a really, really good way, because I love the fact that in On a Magic Secret Service, Bond gets married. I love that in that film, and I think Bond having a daughter in this film is a similar sort of idea. It's almost like Bond settled down, but he hasn't, and I really like the whole idea of Bond falling in love with Madeline Swan, then he has to go away, but then Madeline, she comes back and things like that, and then she's got a daughter, and it's his daughter. It reminds me of On a Magic Service in a really, really good way. But I just wish the execution was a bit better with that whole aspect of the film, because if he just said there on the spot that she was his daughter, there would have been so much more driving emotion for the rest of the film. But the thing is, though, the first time I watched that in the film, the first time I watched that scene where Bond thinks he's his daughter and Madeline Swan tells him that he's not, the rest of the film I was just thinking, okay, that's a huge missed opportunity, but then it's revealed that it's not a missed opportunity, and actually that is his daughter. And so I was just like, why didn't you say that initially? Why didn't you say that initially? Because it actually kind of ruined some of my enjoyment the first time around. And in the end, I enjoyed that whole aspect a bit more the second time around, because I did give it a bit more emotion there, because now you know that it is actually his daughter. But why did Madeline keep it a secret? I'm not entirely sure. But anyway, let's move on to another aspect of this film. The whole relationship between Bond and Madeline Swan. Now, I'm a huge fan of Spectre. I've spoken about this on the channel. I did my, 20-minute review of Spectre. I really like Spectre. But the thing is, though, a lot of people don't. A lot of people just don't like Spectre. One of the biggest aspects of Spectre is the whole relationship between Bond and Madeline Swan, Lea Seydoux Bond girl. And I really like that in the film. I think Lea Seydoux did a great job in Spectre, and I also think she did a great job in No Time to Die as well. But the thing is, though, was that the best idea to carry on that relationship in this film? Because honestly, you're asking your audiences a lot to really believe in that relationship between Madeline Swan and Bond, and the fact that it was so important to him in Spectre that it would carry on into No Time to Die. It's quite a big aspect of the film, and you're asking your audience to believe a lot there, especially if they haven't liked Spectre. Like, if you haven't liked Spectre, I'm going to be really interested to see what you think of that relationship, because that's a huge part of Spectre, and it's carried on to this film. And the thing is, though, they make it so big in this one. Like, Madeline Swan is the one that Bond really loved, and then he has to give up in the end. You know, that's such a huge part of this film, and if you don't believe in that relationship, there's so much emotion lost in the film. But the thing is, though, that lots of people that aren't a fan of Spectre are going to be very interested to what, you know, people's reactions are to that aspect of this film. I personally liked it quite a lot. The fact that they carried that relationship over, because I'm a huge fan of Spectre, but I know a lot of people aren't. So it's going to be very interesting to see what people think of that relationship in the film, because in the end, was Madeline Swan the perfect one for Bond? Was she the perfect woman for Bond? I just feel like, was she really? Because even me, as a huge fan of Spectre, I didn't think I'd see that relationship carry over. Then I remember Lisa Seydoux being announced to be returning in the new Bond film. I feel like, oh, I didn't see that coming. I like Spectre quite a lot, but was that necessarily the best move to put into this film? I don't know. I personally like it quite a lot. But I can also see why some other people might not believe in that relationship so much. Was that necessarily the best idea to go with? I like it quite a lot, but I can understand why some other people might not. But saying that though, I think Lisa Seydoux is great in the film. I think she got more to do in this film than she did in Spectre, and I think she's absolutely fantastic. And I really like the scenes between her and Daniel Craig, particularly the moment where Daniel Craig's telling her back, I've loved you, I've always loved you, and I will love you to the day I die. That's such a fantastic scene in the film, and it's got so much emotion in there. But I'm going to be very interested to see what a person who didn't like Spectre thinks of that relationship in this film. I'm a fan of Spectre, I liked it quite a lot. Going to be interested to see what other people think of it. But anyway, let's move on to some other big spoilers to the film. Actually, let's move on to my first big problem to the film. The use of Christoph Waltz's Blofeld. Now, honestly, I loved Blofeld in Spectre. He was one of my favourite parts of Spectre. I absolutely adored Blofeld in there. And actually, I've been wondering myself quite a lot recently. Would I have liked Spectre as much as I did if I didn't like Blofeld in the film? But the fact is, though, I do like Blofeld in that film, so I like Spectre quite a lot. But the thing is, though, Blofeld from Spectre, Christoph Waltz's big bad Bond villain, is carried over into this film. He's back. But he's not used that well in my opinion. I'm not the biggest fan of the way he's used. I just gotta admit there, like, I love the scene where they introduce him. You got, you know, pulsating score going from Hans Zimmer, which honestly sounds like a heartbeat, you know, boom, 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 boom. And you build up to him, you see him come down the cage and the cord and things like that, and it's such a fantastic moment. Honestly, it reminded me of like Hannibal Lecter from the Silence of the Lambs, and it's such a good way. Honestly, I love Silence of the Lambs, and I love the way that this film kind of reminds you that, you know, Christoph Waltz's Blofeld in the cage and everything like that. I love how it builds up in there. I love the moment when Lisa Seydoux Bongle has to leave that, you know, room before Blofeld gets there and things like that. I love that whole build up to Christoph Waltz's Blofeld. I just think it's absolutely fantastic. But then his death is unbelievably anticlimactic. Like, literally, he dies off screen. He basically dies off screen, because literally Bond with Tenor, you know, Roy Kinnear's character, and then Tenor's like, oh my god, and then Bond looks back over, and, you know, Christoph Waltz's Blofeld is dead like this. And just be like, seriously, why did he need to be in this film then? Why did he need to be in this film? I love the scene that it's in, and I love the fact that, you know, Bond left Madeline because of Blofeld at the start of the film. I love that whole aspect of the film. I think that's a really interesting idea, and I love the fact that they did bring Christoph Waltz back, but was it needed? Did you need to bring Christoph Waltz Blofeld back? Because even so I think that scene's fantastic, it does seem wasted in the end though. Like, I would have liked to see more of Christoph Waltz Blofeld in this film, and I get in the end he's not meant to be the big main bad Bond in this film. I get that's meant to be Safin, you know, Ryan Malick's character. But the thing is though, I just would like to see more from Christoph Waltz Blofeld, because in the end, Christoph Waltz is this, you know, two-time Academy Award winning actor. He's got Academy Awards, you know, Django Unchained, Inglourious and Bastards. He's so good in those films, by the way. And the thing is though, I really loved him in Spectre, and I get a lot of people didn't, but I did, and I just would have liked to see more from him in this film. I think that scene is so menacing that he's in, and I would have liked to see more of that in this film. But things though, I just think his death in this film is really anticlimactic. Like, literally, off screen, he dies, and he just looks like he's fallen asleep. Honestly, I actually thought Christoph Waltz Blofeld might come back the first time I watched it. I mean, secretly, I did know he wouldn't, because he actually kept saying, you know, he's dead now. Christoph Waltz Blofeld is definitely dead. They kept saying that in the film, but the thing is, I was kind of saying to myself, come on, just come back. Just come back. Just please come back. Because I thought his death was actually quite anticlimactic. And actually, let's talk about another big problem to the film, in my opinion. The length. Now, this isn't necessarily a big problem, because I don't actually think there's any scene that could out of this film. Like, there's a whole section to do with Andy Armas, which I like quite a lot. I think Andy Armas is so good in the film, and I love that whole section with her in Cuba, and I just think that's so much fun to watch. But the thing is, though, it's kind of unnecessary. Actually, I think the whole Spectre aspect of the film is quite unnecessary. Because even so, like I said before, I'm a huge fan of Spectre. I think it's a great Bond film. I prefer it over Skyfall. But even so, I really like Spectre. Did this film need to be a full-on sequel to Spectre? I don't think it did, to be honest. I think if we take the whole Spectre element out and just say all the people of Spectre died off screen, I think it would be exactly the same film. I don't know, I'm not entirely sure why they put that whole Spectre aspect in. I get all the Daniel Craig Bond films are meant to be fully connected, but that still would have connected it to, the last Bond film, Spectre, if the members of Spectre weren't in this film and they just died off screen. It still would have connected those two films quite nicely together. But in the end, I don't know. I just feel the whole Spectre element didn't need to be in there. But anyway, going back to the whole length of the film, like I said before, there are quite a lot of elements you could carry on this film, but nevertheless, I don't think you should. I think quite a lot of the film actually works really well, and I think it's kept at a really good pace. And even so, some parts of the film do feel a bit disjointed, like the moment where you see Bond on the dinghy in the middle of the ocean, and then next minute he's like all the way in London. It's like, okay, how did he get there? Even so, some parts of the film did feel a bit disjointed. Overall, I think the film actually flows really, really well, and I don't think there's anything you could really cut out of this film. But the thing is, though, at 2 hours and 43 minutes or something like that, whatever it is, it feels that. It feels like a long, long Bond film, and the fact is, though, it's the longest Bond film yet, so you can understand why. And the thing is, though, you feel every single moment in this film, and like I said before, I don't think there's really anything you can cut out, but at the same time, though, I do think it's a long Bond film, and you feel it. And actually, and I know this wouldn't have happened, but I would have preferred if this film was actually split into two, and you actually had, Use of Blofeld as a villain once again, and then there was the second film to the whole Safin and everything. And I know that wouldn't have happened, because Daniel Craig wouldn't have done that, but still, I would have preferred it that way. That's all I'm saying, because this Bond film is long, and I just personally don't really think a Bond film should be longer than 2 hours, or maybe 2 hours and a quarter. I think after 2 hours and a quarter, you're stretching with a Bond film, and I think this film does that. But overall, I don't think it massively suffers from that. I just think it suffers from it a bit, I've got to admit. And let's talk about another problem to this film. Well, maybe not another problem, but at the same time, though, something that's not necessarily good about this film. This film feels a lot like the Roger Moore Bond films. And there's so much more Bond films I really, really like. Like, I'm a huge fan of The Spy Who Loved Me, and I really enjoy Live and Let Die, and I also quite enjoy For Your Eyes Only as well. So there's some Roger Moore Bond films I like quite a lot. But the thing is, though, there's also some I find quite silly. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of Moonraker, A View to a Kill, or The Man with the Golden Gun. And honestly, this film feels a bit like those previous Roger Moore Bond films from like the 70s, and partly in a good way and partly in a bad way. This is the most silliest Daniel Craig Bond film, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I don't mind if a film goes silly sometimes. I actually think when Bond films do go silly, it's kind of in their DNA a bit. Like, I love the fact that The Spy Who Loved Me actually has a car that goes under the water one stage. I really like that about The Spy Who Loved Me. But the thing is, though, at the same time, though, I don't like the fact that in Moonraker, there's a space station in space, and Bond goes there. Bond, who's had no experience with space training whatsoever, goes to space. And it's a bit like, really? And yeah, it's just things like that. So I thought the Roger Moore Bond era got quite a bit silly, and sometimes not in a bad way, but sometimes in a quite bad way. And honestly, that's kind of the way I feel here. Like, there's some silly moments in there, which are really fun to watch. Like the whole when the machine guns come out of, the Aston Martin DB5 at the start of the film. I think it's the Aston Martin DB5 anyway. I'm not a huge car person. But there's that moment, in the openings in the film, which are fantastic, by the way. I love the opening scene. It's such a great opening scene for this film. But there's a moment where the machine guns come out of the headlights of the Aston Martin DB5, and it's just like, okay, this is a bit silly, but I'm going along with it. But then there's later moments of the film where it does just feel a bit like, it's silly, but not in a good way, necessarily. There's this whole jet moment in the film, where basically Daniel Craig Bond and the new 007, played by Lashana Lynch, and they go on this jet together, and they get, shot out of this plane, and all the way down and things like that, and it just feels like, it's a bit silly, and it just feels like a bit of a plot convenience. It just feels a bit like a plot device to get the kites into a certain place, and honestly, it did feel a bit silly at that moment. It's like a little jet moment, and even so, it's a little moment in there, it still felt silly. There's other moments like that as well, like the whole, towards the end of the film, and even so, I do like the whole death scene quite a lot, the whole Bond's death scene, I do like it quite a lot, but the thing is, though, in that scene where, Rami Malek's character smurs lipstick all over Bond's face, so it means he can't touch, his daughter or the love of his life anymore, when you get that moment, it's really, really good, but things, though, if you start to think about that moment a lot more, it's also a bit silly. Like, Q says something like, oh my god, there's no cure for it, there's no way to ever be able to touch your wife or daughter again, it, but then actually just start to think, but you're Q, you should be able to fix that. There should be a cure, and you should be able to create it. But the thing is, though, you know, and it's just like, in the end, if you're a big Bond fan, you know that Q's meant to be this genius, he's working for MI6, and it's just be like, how can you not create a cure for that thing that Bond got now, which might actually just save his life? And it's just small moments like that. I'm not saying they get as silly as some of the Roger Moore Bond films did, but still, you know, some of the silliness in the film reminded me of the Roger Moore Bond films, and somewhat in a good way, and somewhat in a bad way. I've just got to admit that. But anyway, let's talk about another point to this film. Let's talk about another big spoiler in there. Felix's death. Now, Felix dies in the film, and I was happy they did that. I liked the whole idea of Felix dying, because in the end, we haven't seen Felix die. I'm pretty sure in License to Kill, we saw Felix's wife die, which is, again, it was a really interesting idea. But the thing is, though, we haven't seen Felix die, and so there's someone close to Bond. And actually, there's that one moment later on in the film where Bond says something online like, you know, I did have a brother, and his name was Felix. And I like the whole idea quite a lot, because, again, it creates an idea of family. That's one of the main plot points of the film, and that's kind of what the film needs overall, because actually there's lots of moments that refer to family in the film, and that moment in particular, we see Felix die, and, you know, it's starting to flood inside the ship and things like that, and, you know, Bond's starting to drown, they're going to drown if they're staying there too long. That moment we see Felix die and everything like that, it's quite an emotional scene, especially for me, who's, you know, been watching Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace recently. I'm not the biggest fan of Quantum of Solace. I like the way Jeffrey Wright's Felix is used in that film, and the thing is, though, we haven't actually seen Jeffrey Wright's Felix since Quantum of Solace. So I like the fact they brought him back, and I like the fact they gave him a proper end. Like, if that was one of the Roger Moore or Timothy Dalton Bond films, or even Pierce Brosnan Bond films, they would have forgot about Felix. He would have just been in one of those Bond films, and he wouldn't have been the next, and they would have completely forgot about that character in that period of the Bond franchise. But actually, in this film, they don't forget about Felix, and they bring him back, and they give him a really good send-off, in my opinion. I liked the fact that they kill off Felix, and also, I think that Andy Armas is going to be the new Felix. Because actually, Felix sends, you know, Bond off to meet Andy Armas' character in Cuba. And there's that small moment at the end of the whole Cuba sequence where Bond is like, you were terrific. And then she was like, so are you, but next time stay around a bit more. And you do kind of get the idea that maybe Andy Armas is going to, you know, return in a future Bond film. Yeah, I don't know, pure speculation. But still, you kind of get the idea that maybe Andy Armas' character is going to be the new Felix. And I'm more down for that personally. I thought Andy Armas was great in this film. Honestly, I really liked it, and actually, I kind of wish it was the new 007. I think Lashana did a great job, but also I do think that Andy Armas is having far more fun in the role in this film than Lashana Lynch was. Honestly, I just think Andy Armas was so much fun to watch, and I love the whole Cuba sequence. I think that's fantastic. It's unnecessary, but things though, I wouldn't cut it out. I think it's great fun to watch. That's the thing though. I think it's a lot of fun to watch, and it did kind of get the idea that Andy Armas is going to be like the new Felix. Like, I won't be surprised in the next Bond film, whenever it comes out, you know, 2025 or something like that. Whenever the next Bond film comes out, I won't be surprised if she's like the next Felix, and she helps Bond on his next adventure. But it's just pure speculation, that. But it did kind of make you think, like she just said to Bond, you know, next time stay around a bit more. And I did think, oh, is she going to be coming back? Have they got plans to bring Andy Armas back? I'm all for that if they do, because honestly, I really liked her in this film. I just thought she was great. But going back onto the whole stuff with Felix dying, I think it's a really good scene and things like that. I really like the scene where he dies, and also I like the fact that Bond calls him like his brother a bit later in the film, because, you know, it's reinforcing that whole idea of family. And at the same time, that when you watch Felix's death a second time, it hits a lot more harder because Bond's calling his brother later on in the film. And, you know, I really like that about the film. And actually, as a whole, I think the film works a lot more the second time because a lot more of the emotion is there. Actually, I think the first time around, this film does not work as well as it needs to. You know, the whole story with the daughter and the whole story with Felix's death, I think that's a lot more emotional the second time around because you know what's coming first. You always know what's coming, you know, the second time around. So you know what's coming, and also they don't kind of play around. Like, I don't like the fact that they said, you know, okay, you know, Madeline Swan's daughter isn't Bond's daughter, but they say later on, okay, it is Bond's daughter. Why did they just say initially that it was Bond's daughter? I did think it would have made more sense. But anyway, yeah, I think second time around, I think this film works a lot more actually because it's got a lot more emotion in there, which works, you know, a lot more the second time. That's what I'm trying to say overall. And anyway, let's talk about the new 007 playing Lashana Lynch. Now, I think Lashana Lynch did a great job in this film with the script she was given, but I don't think the character is written that well. And, you know, I'm not just saying that because I'm one of these people online. They're like, oh my god, powerful female character in the film. How dare they? How dare they have a powerful female character in this film? I don't care about that. If a powerful female character is written well, I'm all for it. I love Rain Stars. I love, you know, Princess Rain Stars. I love, you know, Ripley and Alien. I've got so many other examples as well. There's so many fantastic, powerful female characters in big, popular film franchises, which is so great to watch, in my opinion. But the thing is, though, I just wish the new 007 was written a bit better in the film, because I think the other female characters in the film, you know, Lacey Bond Girl, I think she's great in the film, far better than Motion Inspector, and I think Andy Arms is great as well, but the thing is though, I wanted to really like that new 007 in this film, but I just didn't in the end. I think Lashana Lynch did a great job with the script she was given, but I just don't think the character is written that well, and I never found it that interesting, and actually, I just kind of found her a bit, I don't know, not necessarily annoying, but at the same time though, just kind of irrelevant towards the end of the film. I think she's got some great moments where she kind of shows off her skills and things like that, and I think she does a great job playing, you know, the secret agent, this new 00, you know, the new 007. I think she's great doing that, but I wish that character was written a bit better. I wish that character was written a bit better and not just there for the sake of being there. It did kind of feel like that. I'm fine with powerful female characters in films. I've talked about this many times on the channel. I'm fine with all that. I love a good female character in the film, but the thing is though, I didn't feel that with 007. I didn't feel that the new 007 in this film. However, I do think Lashana Lynch did a great job with that, you know, character she was given. And I'd happily watch her again, actually. Because I do think that new 007 will return in the next Bond film. Because actually, Ray Fiennes has actually talked about he would like to return as M in the next Bond film. And if they carry him over, then it just makes me think that they'll carry, you know, Warwick Kinnear's character over. It also makes me think they'll carry Ben Wishaw's Q over. And, you know, Norman Harris's Moneypenny as well. And that wouldn't surprise me if they carried over, you know, Lashana Lynch's 007 as well. I'm all for that. I'd love the character to come back and actually be written a bit better. And I just get into that character so much more. I'm hoping that's what they do, and I'm hoping the second time around, I like the whole, you know, new 007 a lot more. But just this time around, I didn't. I got to admit that I just didn't. But I think the other female characters in the film are absolutely fantastic. I just don't think 007 is that great in my opinion. The new 007 anyway. But anyway, let's talk about another big aspect of this film. The big bad Bond villain played by Rami Malek, who is now playing, what's his name? Safin in the film. Safin. He's playing Safin, the big bad Bond villain in the film. And actually, I think there's one missed opportunity with his character. And I think the big missed opportunity is saying that he's not got any relation to Dr. No, or that he's not Dr. No himself. Like, okay, he's not Dr. No. That's fine. He doesn't need to be Dr. No. Dr. No's already been gone. He was in the first Bond film, which is almost 60 years old, by the way. He's 60 years old next year. But yes, he didn't need to be Dr. No. But I would have liked to hear they had some relation to Dr. No. Because I think that would have added more to his character. And I think, you know, if you're a proper Bond fan, there are some implications in there that maybe he is related to Dr. No. Maybe he's, you know, Dr. No's son, or even Dr. No's grandson. Dr. No's grandson probably makes more sense, because like I said, Dr. No was, you know, how many years ago? Almost 60. So it'd make more sense if it was Dr. No's grandson, but I just would have liked if they explicitly said that, instead of just imply it, because I think that would have been a bit of a moment where people go, ooh, so maybe he's a bit more threatening than he actually is. But instead, I just think it's kind of one of those things where if you're a big Bond fan, maybe they get the idea that he is, you know, related to Dr. No, because, you know, Safin, you know, Ryan Malek's Bond film does go on quite a lot about his father in this film, things like that. You kind of get the idea, oh, maybe he is Dr. No's son, or Dr. No's grandson, or something like that. But things though, I just would have liked them to say it, because I think would have acted a bit more to that character, which leads me on to my criticism to do with Safin overall. I think Rami Malek did a great job. I think he's a really good Bond villain, and I think he played that character so well. Honestly, I think if Rami Malek didn't play that character, I don't think he'd be as threatening as he actually is in the film. But the thing is though, I don't think the character is, again, written that fantastically. And I don't think the character is written badly, but the thing is though, I don't think he's a really fleshed out villain. And actually, I went to go watch a film with Lewis, which many people might remember from, you know, months and months ago on this channel. He's been here since the start of the channel. I went to go and watch a film with Lewis, and he said to me something which, you know, I first thought was kind of wrong, but actually I do think it's kind of right now. If we take out all the guards around, you know, Rami Malek's Bond villain and all these scenes that he's in, and you take all that big setting away from him, he's not that threatening, and he's not that scary as a Bond villain. You want a Bond villain to really stick out to you. Oh my god, this Bond villain can actually do something really evil, like Mads Mikkelsen in the interrogation scene in Casino Royale. Honestly, you feel with Mads Mikkelsen in Casino Royale that it's a really threatening Bond villain, and you don't need anyone else around him to make him feel threatening. But the thing is though, it does feel in this film that they need other people around Rami Malek's Bond villain to make him threatening. I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing. I just would like to see more of that character having a bit more fleshed out in this film, and instead, I didn't really get his motive. Okay, he wants a Hercules drug, but why? What's the real reason for killing all these people? Okay, he wants to take down Spectre, he wants to kill Bond to get to Madeline Swan or something like that, but I don't know, maybe it's just me there, but I just would like to see more of that character and a bit more fleshed out and really understand his motive, because I just didn't really get that in the end. I think the scenes between him and Daniel Craig are fantastic. I think Ryan looks great in the film. I think he actually makes that character so much better just through his performance. But I just don't think the character's that much well written, I've got to admit there. But anyway, let's talk about another character in the film that I haven't really talked about yet, and that's Billy Magnuson, who I think was meant to be the Bond henchman in the film. Rubbish. Rubbish as a Bond henchman. If he was meant to be the Bond henchman, I'm not sure if he was, but he's rubbish he was meant to be. I mean, there's another character like Cyclops, with like one robotic eye who kept popping up in and out of the film, and he might try to be the Bond henchman. I wasn't entirely sure, but the thing is though, again, there's no sense that any of these characters, whether it's Billy Magnuson or that character like Cyclops, could ever take down Bond. And that's the thing though, you have Jaws, you know, Moonraker, Spy Love Me, you did kind of get the idea, okay, he might defeat Bond, or, you know, David Bautista's Bond henchman Inspector, okay, he might actually take down Bond. But I never felt that with any of the people that worked with Safin in this film. I never felt that any of them could actually take down Bond. I think Billy Magnuson did, again, a good job with the role he was given, but I never found him that threatening. And also, there's a one moment with him and Felix and Bond in the club in Cuba early on the film, and he says something like, do you know anyone who works with Spectre? And there's a close one of his characters who says that. I'm like, okay, no, because you do. You work with Spectre. You're one of the big bad guys in the film. I can tell that already. Just in that way, you know, Cary Fukunaga shot that scene. I just didn't really think that Billy Magnuson was that good in the film. And at the same time, though, I wasn't the biggest fan of that scientist as well that kept popping in and out of the film and things like that. There was a scientist in there. He's the one who's kind of the Hercules drugs around. We first introduced him like after the opening in the film, and he comes back throughout the film as well. He's trying to get him, and he's kind of Hercules drug and things like that. He's working with Safin. I've got his names in the film, but I just didn't really like him in this film that much. I've got to admit, I just didn't really think he was that good in there, and I think kind of annoying. And I know he's meant to be annoying in the film, but still, you can't have an annoying character in the film that is well written and still enjoyable to watch. Never found that with this guy in this film. Never found with the, you know, the scientist that kept me in this film. But anyway, let's talk about another big aspect of the film: the musical score. Now, people know me on this channel. I love a good musical score in any film or any Bond film in particular. But anyway, yes, let's talk about the Hans Zimmer score for this film. I think it's good, but I don't think it's brilliant. Actually, my liking of the score has decreased the second time I heard it used in the film. Now, I think it's a good score that works well with the film, but that's his problem. I don't think it's a real fantastic score. I don't think it's got any iconic themes in there, and at the same time, no, I don't think it really uses the James Bond theme to its full extent. Like, I don't think there's many uses of the James Bond theme in the score which work that well. And I don't know, that's a bit contradicting, you know, me saying, like, I want this score to have more of its own music in there, but at the same time, no, I also want it to use the James Bond theme a lot more. But the thing is, though, if you look at the score, or more like hear the score for Casino Royale, and you just listen to that score, and you listen to the fact that, you know, David Arnold managed to compose all these new and exciting themes for that film, and at the same time, though, add the James Bond theme in the best way possible, in my opinion, in Casino Royale. You know, in the end credits, you really see Bond as Bond in that film. It is possible. He managed to do it really well. It is possible to actually use your own music, and at the same time, though, use all the classic James Bond music in there in a previous Bond film. David Arnold did it fantastically. I just wish Hans Zimmer did it better in this film. And like I said before, I do think the score is good. I think there's actually a lot of good moments in the score. Particularly, there's one track on the score called, what was it, Escape from the Square. And I just love that little theme in the film. I think it's absolutely fantastic. But the thing is, though, I wanted to love the score as a whole. I like how it, you know, quotes from John Barry's score from On a Majesty Service in the opening moments of the film. And I do like quite a lot of aspects of the score. But at the same time, though, it's not one of the most memorable James Bond scores, in my opinion. I'm not going to be listening to the James Bond score time and time again, like I am doing with the Casino Royale score, like I am doing the Tomorrow Never Dies score, and like I am doing with so many of the previous John Barry Bond scores as well. I wish it was a bit better, and I wish, like I said before, I know it's a bit contradicting, but it's true. I wish, you know, use the James Bond theme more, because it would have made the film feel more James Bondish. We're actually going to talk about it a bit later in the video as well. But at the same time, though, I wish it also used more of its own music in there, which was far more distinctive than it really was in the film. Because I know this film, and because I know the score actually has a lot of new music in there which Hans Zimmer has composed, but none of it is really that memorable. That's kind of one of my big problems with Hans Zimmer scores as a whole. I think some of Hans Zimmer scores, you know, are fantastic. I think Hans Zimmer does a great job with musical scores. The thing is, though, you can't really listen to them much outside of the films they're used in. I think that's the same problem here with the score for No Time to Die. I think it works well with the film. I just wish I could listen to it more by itself and really pick out parts and go, actually, you know, that's the score for No Time to Die. But I just don't feel I could if I ever listen to the score outside of Spotify. I've just got to admit there. But anyway, let's talk about what I previously touched on a bit before. Does this Bond film feel like a Bond film? I personally think it does. I think there's a lot of aspects of the film which really make it feel like a Bond film. You know, whether it's Daniel Craig's performance, I think Daniel Craig is so good in the film. It's my second favourite Daniel Craig Bond performance. My third favourite Daniel Craig Bond performance is still in Casino Royale. I just think he embodies Bond so fantastic in that film. But in this film, like I said before, it feels like Bond after Bond, and I like that idea. I like the fact that Daniel Craig is in this film, and he seems like he's having so much fun. I like the fact that, you know, Daniel Craig, after he's played Bond for, you know, what's it, like 15 years now, he comes back in this film and it seems like he's having so much fun, and it really feels like you're watching Bond after he's been Bond. But at the same time, though, there's a lot of other aspects of the film which I think feel like Bond. But, like I said before, I watched this film with Lewis, which many people might not think, like many months ago on this channel. I watched this film with Lewis, and he said it didn't feel like a Bond film. And maybe, going back to the whole thing to do with the Handsome score, maybe if Handsome had used them, you know, made James Bond theme in the score, like, you know, maybe if he used that theme a lot more in the score, maybe it would have made the film feel more James Bond to some other people. And I'm not necessarily saying that's a criticism myself, but at the same time, though, I can see why other people might not say this feels like a real proper James Bond film, and actually feels more like a Mission Impossible film. That's fine. Mission Impossible films are great in my opinion. Mission Impossible films feel like their own thing, they're like their own beast, and I really like the latest Mission Impossible films. But the thing is, though, James Bond's not Mission Impossible. And I don't know, I feel that there are large aspects of this film which don't feel which might not feel like James Bond to some people. You know, having the whole jet coming out of it didn't feel like James Bond to me. Having two Bond villains in there, but hasn't really done in the Bond franchise, is that necessarily a good thing? And having a returning Bond girl in there. And I do feel it's going to be a large aspect of the film which for some people don't feel like Bond. For me, did. But I can see why other people might not like that. And in particular, the friend that I watched with didn't really think that it felt like a Bond film. And again, it's going to be quite a mixed opinionated Bond film, I think, this one. And I also think it's going to remember, like I said before, as a Bond film where Bond dies. And I just, is that a good thing? Do you want this Bond film to be remembered as the film where Bond dies? No, you want this Bond film to be remembered for all his fantastic other moments, that his fantastic opening action sequence, the way that Cary Fukunaga directs the film. Honestly, Cary Fukunaga's direction of the film is great. I love the way he does moments in the film. There's like one moment in the club where like you swivel over for the new 007 played by Lashana Lynch, as she looks over at, you know, Felix, Bond, and Billy Madison's character all chatting in the club like that. I love the direction of the film. I also love like the one long take that you get on the film where, you know, you see Bond going through Safin's base and killing all these people as he goes upstairs. It's a fantastic moment in the film. I'm not sure if it's actually done in one take, but it's such a great moment in the film as well. I think Cary Fukunaga's direction is great, and I love the opening scene of the film. I love all the action sequences in the film. They leap off the screen in the best way possible, and I think the direction there is fantastic. But in the end, that's not what this film's going to be remembered for. That's not what this film's going to be remembered for in the end. It's going to be remembered as a film where Bond dies. And I don't know if that is necessarily a good thing, but in the end, it is what it is. It's already happened in the film, we can't change that. But the thing is, though, I feel there's going to be so much quality in this film which people aren't going to remember, and the whole aspect of the daughter which people won't remember as well, and actually just focus on the last half an hour of the film, which is maybe not the way that Cary Fukunaga, the director of the film, was intending. I don't know, it's just speculation there. Maybe Cary Fukunaga wanted people to focus on the last half an hour of the film. I don't think he did, by the way, but maybe that's the way he wanted. But still, it's going to be interesting to see the way people view this Bond film in about 10 years' time. That's what I'm saying. And also, other aspects of the film which I really like, which is a smaller aspects, I really like, you know, Safin's base. It reminded me of the base of You Only Live Twice, you know, Blofeld's base in You Only Live Twice, and also Dr. No's base in Dr. No, funny that. But yeah, it reminded me of those previous, you know, big Bond villain bases, which I like quite a lot. I think that's all really cool. I like the whole base. I like how Safin's base is. That's a really good aspect of the film. And there's so much quality on screen. I think all the performances are great. I think, you know, Ray Fiennes is doing his best performance as M. I think Roy Kinnear's 10 is great in there. I think Ben Whishaw is great in there as Q. I love that we get to see more of Q's home life as well. I love the introduction to Q in this film. I think that's really good. And at the same time, though, I think Naomi Harris' Moneypenny is good as well. I must admit, I do think this is her, maybe not her worst performance actually, but I do think this is probably the worst way her character's been used in the Bond franchise. Specifically, you know, Naomi Harris' Moneypenny. Like, I think Naomi Harris' Moneypenny is great in Skyfall, and I think she was also a really good Inspector. But in this film, she just kind of feels like she's there for the sake of being there. For the sake of being there for Daniel Craig's last Bond film. Because honestly, I don't know. She's just going to kind of feel like she was there. But I do think Naomi Harris did a great job of the script she was given in the film. And you know, there's so many other aspects of the film which I really like as well. And I do think Ryan Reynolds does a great job as the big bad Bond villain. And I do think the execution, there's so many scenes, is there. And it's actually fantastic. But in the end, I don't know. There are so many big problems in the film. And actually, now that I've been reviewing this over the last how long the video has been, I've started to notice more and more problems in the film, which honestly have made me realise maybe I don't like the film as much as I do. But in the end, I've got to admit, you know, when I watched the film a second time, I just got swept along with it. Even with all the problems that I did have, I just got swept along with it and I went along with it. It felt like a Bond film. It felt like I was sitting there just watching this fantastic spy film unfold in front of my very eyes, as they say. That's what it felt like, and in a really good way. So even though I do my big problems with it, actually, you know what? I still really like it. I still really like it, because when I watched it a second time, I preferred it much more than when I watched it a first time. And even so, I don't like the Bond song, even so the score is not as good as I want it to be, and even so, this film does have some other big problems as well, but this film will be remembered as a film where Bond dies. Even so, it does have some other big problems in there, and maybe killing off Bond wasn't the best idea. Even so, I do have my problems in there. I came out of the film the second time with a huge grin on my face. Honestly, I really liked it, and I got swept along with it. I was immersed into the world of No Time to Die for 2 hours and 33 minutes, or however long it is, as I watched it in the cinema the second time. And actually, you know what? I really want to go back and rewatch it a third time. And maybe if I go back and rewatch it a third time, maybe I'll like it more, maybe I'll like it less. Or maybe I would just feel the same about it. But I'm happy that I watched it a second time. I'm very happy that I watched it a second time, because actually it made me just, I don't know, it made me really like this film. It made me go along with it. And, you know, I really like that about it. And even though I don't love it, I like it quite a lot. And that's what I take from No Time to Die. I don't love it, but you know what? I like it quite a lot. Actually, I think it's up there with some of the other Bond films I've seen, which I really like. I think it's up there for Much With Love. I think it's up there with Spy Love Me. And even so, I do think it's got more problems than actually I really considered when I sat down to record this review today. Even so, I do think it's got a lot of big problems in there. In the end, it's a fun, you know, rip-roaring and enjoyable Bond film with action sequences which leap off the screen in the best way possible, with moments that really make you smile and moments have you laughing, and even so not all the comedy works, but a lot of it does. And even so, it does have so many problems in there. I just really enjoyed watching it as a whole. I think it's a really good Bond film. Not Daniel Craig's best. I still prefer Casino Royale over this film. But you know what? Especially after watching it a second time, I think it's a really enjoyable Bond film. I think there's a lot to remind the film. And you know what? Even though I don't love it, I really like it. And that's what I take from No Time to Die. And so, all in all, I'm going to say No Time to Die, I'm going to say that it's an 8.4 out of 10. I'm going to give it the same rating that I did the first time I watched, because I'd probably say it is at the same way, because the first time I watched it, actually, I've been quite generous about it. I must admit, after I finished my first non-spoiler review of No Time to Die, I actually just kind of sat down as I was in my review and thinking to myself, I really just give that film an 8.4 out of 10. I didn't like it as much as I rated it, but actually, the second time around, you know what? I do like it as much as an 8.4 out of 10. I do like it that much, because honestly, I give Casino Royale an 8.5 out of 10, and I don't think it's quite the level of Casino Royale, because Casino Royale is gritty, it's a proper Bond film in my opinion, and honestly, it's just going to have fantastic go on there, and so many fantastic moments. But at the same time, though, I do find my problems with Casino Royale, but I have more problems in this film than I do with Casino Royale. But actually, I like this film quite a lot. I really like it, actually. It's a rip-roaring Bond film. There's a lot of enjoyment to find in there, and even so, it does feel a bit disjointed in some parts, specifically when you get to the whole MI6 stuff. Even so, it does feel a bit disjointed and does feel a bit episodic, and maybe if it was split into 2 films, maybe it would have been a bit better. Overall, I came out of the film watching it a second time, really liking it. But that's not to mean you will. That's not to mean, you know, maybe you'll have the same reaction as me. Maybe you come out of this film and maybe you didn't really like it. I went to go watch it from Lewis, and he's a big Bond fan. He's a huge fan of the Sean Connery Bond films. He really likes to watch more Bond films, and he really likes the Daniel Craig Bond films as well. But the thing is, though, he came out of the film and he didn't really like it. He didn't take the film the same way I did the second time. But at the same time, though, I also went to go watch the film with someone called Ollie, and actually, he came out of this film and said it was the best Bond film we've seen yet. So it's all subjective. And maybe, you know, maybe you come out of this Bond film and maybe you hate it. And if you do, fair enough. Maybe you just dislike it the same way Lewis did. Maybe you actually love it the same way Ollie did. Or maybe you just like it quite a lot the same way I have. And actually, that's just kind of where I'm going to sit with this film overall. I think, overall, I like it. But I think it's going to have very interesting reaction from many other people. And overall, I think it's one of those Bond films which are talked about in years and years to come. Kind of like Goldfinger, or kind of like Doctor No, which do so many interesting things. I think it's going to be on the level as them. Maybe not on the same, you know, quality as them. But, well, for some people anyway, I'm not actually the biggest fan of Doctor No or Goldfinger. But the thing is, though, maybe I don't think it's going to be on the same quality as them for so many people. But I do think it is one of those Bond films which people talk about for years and years to come, because of what it does, because of the fact it kills off Bond. I think that's going to be the big thing which people talk about for so many years to come. and maybe that's not a good thing, but at the same time, though, you know what? The writers of the film, the producers of the film, they got what they wanted. They're going to have a film which many people are talking about in years and years to come. And actually, I think that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing for the producers. Maybe not a good thing for, you know, big Bond fans and Bond fanatics and things like that. But at the same time, though, I think it is going to be a film which people go back to time and time again. And I think it's going to be a film which many people have mixed opinions over. And somewhat in a good way and somewhat in a bad way. But overall, if I'm just talking about my own opinion, which is what I'm doing in this review, I like it quite a lot. And I do think it does a lot of bold and really good stuff in my opinion. And even so, I do have my big problems with the film overall. I do really like it. I don't love it, but you know what? I really like it. And that's what I'm going to take from No Time to Die overall. And so, all in all, I'm going to say that No Time to Die, I'm going to say that it's an 8.4 out of 10 from me. Anyway guys, what do you think of No Time to Die? Please do comment down below and know your thoughts in the comment section below. Anyway guys, that's it now. I've reviewed all 20 odd Bond films leading up to No Time to Die. And you know what? I've even done 2 reviews of No Time to Die. So that's it. I'm not doing any Bond film reviews for a very long time on this channel. But if you haven't yet, please do go and check out my previous Bond film reviews. Because honestly, it means the world to me when people do go and check them out. Because honestly, it takes so long to make my Bond film reviews. And it just means the world to me when people do go and check them out. But if you have checked them out, thank you for watching all my previous Bond film reviews, and thank you for watching this one in particular. And if you haven't yet, please do click down below and like subscribe on the video. I'm looking forward to many more both film and TV reviews coming very soon on this channel. See you guys again soon, but bye for now. Bye!